The coaching method of Thomas Tuchel. The coaching formulas formed from the time he was leading small teams in Germany are the hinges for Thomas Tuchel to become the star in the coaching village today. After more than 10 years of experience with youth football, Thomas Tuchel has taken many steps forward. First, he learned from coach Hansi Kleitsch as an assistant at Stuttgart. Mr. Kleitsch is considered a bright spot in the field of youth training in Germany. After that, Tuchel began to accumulate experience from working as the head coach of various ages of different youth teams. True to the tradition and theory prevalent in German academies at the time, Tuchel applied the rule of repetition to each exercise: a single pass 100 times. Practice a single pass 100 times, all in a training session. Clear rules. Now we are also applying a much larger number of repetitions, but not in a crammed style, Tuchel self-assessed. We practice in a cramped and complex space, constantly forcing players to come up with new solutions according to the shape of the game. In simpler terms, the players will have to practice the pass in a competitive situation, under the same pressure as a real game without thinking, calculating, and handling. Another type of exercise that is also favored by him is to apply different forms of attack organization when there is a loss in number of people compared to the opponent, such as 7 against 9 situations. This type of exercise will force the player to pass the ball so creatively that cramming is no longer necessary. In Tuchel's training sessions, there was never the form of an 11v11 exercise across the entire court like a game. He himself used to love them when he always put the competition at the end of training sessions when he was a youth coach. With Tuchel, the exercise of playing like the real thing is no longer reasonable. I said goodbye to trying to copy the weekend game. Well, never do that. Instead, he focused more on the basic patterns in which the team would operate. The rules have to be very clear: which foot is to receive the ball? Which foot should be passed to a teammate? Is it possible to put a player in an empty position, or will the situation be closed? In a closed situation, how should the player respond to the defenders to reorganize the attack? When a player turns around, is there a way to move on that side? Which side has no road? These rules should be very clear. And within the framework of the rules, each player will have the maximum degree of creative freedom, explained Tuchel. With each passing week, the Mainz 05 players have more confidence in the teacher. They've realized that exercises in miniature are the best preparation. In official matches, when the space on the field suddenly expands, they feel like they have more time to make decisions, easier than the training sessions as the coach intended. Midfielder Eugen Polanski that day said that it takes good academics to keep up with Tuchel's exercises. After each training session, the players' minds are more tired than their limbs. Tuchel had penetrated their minds. In each of those days, Tuchel would often stand in the middle of the field, constantly commenting, criticizing the players who made mistakes, motivating them, putting more pressure on them. Above all, he never forgot his technical work. Just like Roger Federer has to practice serving and hitting shots on the court every day. Every day, A football player has to practice basic techniques again and again, Tuchel asserted. This concept is espoused by players like Andreas Evenschitz. We practice a huge amount of passes with him and he is constantly paying attention to the quality of the pass. Based on that, he will fall in love. We had to get the ball past 6 or 7. All the time, we had to open up new triangles. At that time, practice was fun. But the beginning of everything was still a simple but accurate pass. I have never seen a coach with the courage to be so simple. Midfielder Jan Kirchhoff remembers his days in the U19 team with Tuchel. He asserts that the old teacher's training sessions have shaped the team's playing style. With Thomas, I learned how to add tempo to the game. In the exercises, he always practiced the short, long rule. This greatly influenced my personal play. In that approach, the first 2 passes when the team deploys the ball will be 2 short passes. The idea is that if the central defender makes a short pass to the 6th tower midfielder, who plays another short pass and releases it, the opponent will be forced to move. Pass streams will open. The centre-back himself will have a few more seconds to position himself and watch, looking for a long-range pass option, preferring a thick, penetrating pass. Center to target the conductor player or striker. This play will be repeated on the opponent's field. 2 passes will help the 6th midfielder or the conductor player to navigate. The ultimate goal now is to score, finish, or assist. Learn by error. In addition, Tuchel also believes in a concept called learning by error. This is a sports science theory that holds that each athlete will learn sequences better if there are variables or objective influences introduced into the training process rather than simply repeat. Fate as arranged. One of the fathers of this theory was teaching and doing research at the Sports Science Institute of Johannes Gutenberg University. At the same time Tuchel was working in Mainz. To be precise, Mainz's training ground was only 2 kilometers from the school. Tuchel also had discussions with Professor Wolfgang Schallhorn. Those encounters made a strong impression on Tuchel. As he put it, completely changed my role as a coach. He recounts, I started to orient myself more and more in the real direction that training gives players more complex tasks than a game. The problems the opponent creates in the game. A game has to be simple for the players. The design of the training ground applied by Tuchel can make anyone's head crazy. Exercise always takes place on a small and narrow area. There is always pressure present on the player holding the ball, so passes must always be made and executed correctly. In addition, there are always special rules, or certain areas of the field will be prohibited from entering. For example, do not pass into or through the center circle, or limit play to the sideline depending on the characteristics of the next opponent. Tuchel once analyzed Stuttgart and judged them to be very good at winning the ball on both sides. So he asked the team to deploy through the middle and minimize the openings in the wings. On the Tuesday before the game against Stuttgart, in the first training session of the week, he began to give exercises for that play, although it was still pleasant because it was the beginning of the week. On Wednesday, Tuchel restricted the field to an unusual level. The playing area is shaped like an hourglass. Tuchel forced the players to pass across the center of the field horizontally, as if threading a thread through the slit of a sewing needle. If the players get the ball across the midfield line, the space then widens. That Saturday, Mainz won. Stuttgart's two fullbacks are like two outsiders. We went out on the pitch without any fear, but with positive faith, one player said. His requirements were quite detailed. He didn't simply lay out the opponent's strengths and weaknesses, but also made it clear how we would play on that basis. Some people rejected Tuchel because of his attitude and personality from the training ground to the technical area. It is true that at times it is easy for Tuchel to make people feel like he is a weirdo, effective but in a strange style. However, just talking to the players who worked with him during the early years of his carefree career at Mainz, a picture will gradually emerge, sketching of a man who has always been for the team, far from the image he showed in front of fans, team leaders, or the media. After a game, he put his arms around my neck because I scored from a slightly different movement after receiving the ball. It gave me less than a second to finish without getting hit. Blocking. He was like crazy in the dressing room. I didn't feel any selfish pleasure from Tuchel. He didn't see himself as a genius or anything like that, but just pure joy for me, as a player, as well as the fact that I did it together, Ivanschitz concluded.